Hi folks, I'm joined by guest CEO Jason Miller for a quick chat about Twitter. Jason happened to be by the studio, and so we thought we'd have a think about it, because Twitter's what's happening with Twitter and Elon Musk is important to Getter, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's important to the global free speech movement and really to where the competitive platforms go in the future. So anyone who's supportive of free speech should be cheering on what Elon Musk is doing. I can say that as someone who, even my business model of trying to disrupt Twitter would be disrupted if Elon Musk were to take it over. A lot of people say they want to stick with Twitter because they think Elon Musk will change the culture there. Now, I said early on that I don't think the terms of the deal were ultimately going to work. The Elon Musk this thing would fall apart. That's what we saw what happened. I don't think it's because of the bots. I think it's though because Musk looked at it and realized the monetization isn't there. There's no way he's going to be able to quadruple their number of daily active users to make it as profitable as he wants it to be. I think the bots is a little bit of a fig leaf to go and kind of give them some cover on that. Now we're going in front of a judge, and this is where it can get crazy.
Well, this is where it's actually going to get lots of information is going to get revealed, isn't it? Because one of his major contentions was, hang on a second, they're withholding the numbers of bots that are on their site. But as you say, it does feel like a bit of a fig leaf, right?
Well, because you would think that the world's richest man, someone as genius as Elon Musk, would have done his due diligence on looking at our front end. However, and this is where it gets a little bit bumpy, Twitter doesn't put out their actual number of daily active users. They have a proprietary monetizable daily active user, kind of their Colonel Sanders recipe, their McDonald's Big Mac secret sauce, where they say, no, this is really what our monetizable daily active users are. And people have said, okay, all of a sudden that allowed it to spike, allowed them to go and charge advertisers more money. Yeah. So Musk has a point here. This is very valid. I don't think Twitter wants to go through any aspect of discovery on this.
No, because they say, isn't it something like 250 million daily active users Twitter claims to have? It's somewhere between 200 and 300 million. But I mean, I'm a bit sus on this because, I mean, even the largest tweets only get like 1 million retweets, right? And that's a lot, obviously, but not for a tech giant, not for like, the most viewed videos on YouTube have got billions of views, and so it's like, right, okay. I'm always very skeptical because Twitter is the sort of platform and has the sort of environment on the platform that is naturally dissuasive to a regular person, right? It's very hot, it's very high tempered, and it's very competitive. And so a regular social media user who's just like, a housewife or something like that, no need to use Twitter. And so they naturally cut off a large section of their audience. And of course, all of the censorship and shadow banning of further discouragement in order to turn it into a smaller platform that I think it wishes it was and tries to puff itself up into. And so you are right, I think, that Elon Musk is right to go on the bot issue. But like I said, it does feel like a fig leaf because, I mean, he is the world's richest man. And it wasn't about money that he started this conversation and that he started this action. It was about censorship. And so to him, like, then trying to pivot to the monetization bot issue, it feels like he's, I don't know, kind of covering his bases, maybe retreating slightly. What do you think?
So there's a bit of a buried lead that a lot of people don't realize is that about 20 to 25% of Trump supporters, domestic U.S., Trump supporters quit social media when he was deplatformed. So when you go a little bit deeper into what is Musk really after, we notice that Musk made a real overture saying it was wrongly decided, Trump being kicked off, but he stopped short of inviting him back on. In other words, he wants Trump supporters to come back to Twitter because that will give them tens of millions more daily active users, potentially. But he doesn't want to go and embrace Trump. In fact, now he's made some disparaging comments on Trump and said he'd support Ron DeSantis. Here's the thing where I think I'm surprised we haven't seen from Musk is a little bit more foresight and really ingenuity when it comes to what Twitter could become. With Getter, for example, we've started putting together the live streaming. We're obviously Lotus Eaters. We're glad to have you. A number of other great folks here in the UK.
Go watch us on Getter.
Exactly. Majid Nawaz, Matt Letitia, some great folks who are doing live streaming. We've added Vision, our short video format, kind of our competitor to TikTok, Instagram Reels. So we've put it together in one place. Musk hasn't said anything about how he'll take Twitter into a new place with new features. And I think that's really telling.
And what's interesting about Twitter is it seems to have a complete dearth of ideas behind it at all. Because, I mean, the only thing that they've done new in recent years are Twitter Spaces, which are just like Discord Hangouts. But that's not impressive. It's not lighting the world on fire. It might be fun for New York Times journalists to get together and have a sort of roundtable on Twitter, but that's not appealing to the masses. That's not going to bring people on. So, and I've read that Twitter is using ancient architecture underneath the thing, as in the coders who made Twitter have left, and the people who are now occupying those positions are not the best and brightest. They're merely people who are kind of caretakers of what's already there.
Well, the other important thing to keep in mind is just how radicalized we found out that the Twitter employees and the coders and engineers were during this process.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to go and put in special blockers to make sure that coders and engineers could not mess with new features that were coming out on Twitter or different things they're developing.
Or just screw it on their way out when they were quitting.
Or just to go and try to stick it to them. That was pretty telling. I mean, I just had this image in the San Francisco headquarters of these soy boys with their e-scooters blockading themselves in, and death by e-scooter to the brain, or just kind of these.
But it's not an unrealistic image, actually.
No, and that's exactly.
Not.
And what Musk has really done, though, is I think hundreds of millions of dollars of effectively negative advertising on Twitter, just highlighting exactly how they've gone wrong.
Yeah.
So I think that when you look at what's Twitter's roadmap, how do they grow? Even if somehow he does get forced into completing the acquisition, how do you go and turn it around now? I mean, he's called the CEO the poop emoji. He's talked about how terrible the platform is. Essentially saying all the things we say. Yeah. It's just that he's really rich and people pay attention to him.
He's got a massive following.
He has a massive following. Yeah. And so I don't know how Twitter changes that brand.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that Elon Musk will go in and fire a bunch of people. And he has said that he was planning to.
As he should.
As he should. Because it's got like 7,000 employees. Like 7,000 employees, that's obvious bloat. And as a business owner, I wouldn't have 7,000 employees full stop. That's just too many. But one thing I think that is going to, he did say, because you said, he didn't invite Trump back, but he did say that there would no longer be permanent bannings from the platform, right? So that is essentially opening the door, because maybe he's in a particular political position where he's feeling, I can't really say, come on, Trump, I'd love to have you back.
And so to my point on that, look, and I told President Trump when we talked about it, I go, if Musk invites you back, you got to do it, especially if you're going to go run for president. You want to be able to talk to as many people as possible. And Twitter's still the biggest digital town square out there. Yeah. That's the litmus test, in my opinion. As far as will there be real cultural change within Twitter, that's if they invite Trump back. If they don't invite him back, I think it's all lip service.
Yeah. If I get my account back, then it worked.
Exactly.
But even then, I think that Getter is showing that it's got legs of its own, right? Because, I mean, what's your daily active user base? Something like 6 million?
So 6 million are the total number of users.
Right.
Daily active users, usually somewhere in the 450,000 range, depending on the day and where exactly people are, depending if there's say a big Trump rally, or maybe there's some big event or a couple of big live streams, things of that nature. But we have, as far as with the live streams, we usually run between about 700,000 and 1 million live stream views a day. So there are a lot of people who come and visit it and watch live streams, even if they're not necessarily logging onto the platform, which you can do. Right. And also some people then watch multiple live streams a day. In fact, about 13% of our daily active users watch live streams, but those who do watch it watch on average about 2.9 live streams. So they'll watch, say, a Lotus Eaters and a Steve Bannon's War Room, or they'll watch, Andy No, plus, maybe say, Lawrence Fox is doing a broadcast or something like that. And so it's a passionate base. It's really building that community where people know we can go to Getter to get really good content. It's where they want that opinion. They want to go and hear people, whether it be that talk like them, or people they want to go and pick a fight if they have different thoughts.
Because I do think there was a kind of Boyle effect almost, where because Silicon Valley had been the only game in town for such a long time, everyone's like, well, that's where you go. And the most recent events in the past few years, I think, have kind of popped that bubble. It's like, look, this is not the only game in town. It can't be the only game in town. And I've noticed this with other platforms like Gab and Minds and things like that. They still have reliable user bases to them, and they still exist in the plurality of the options available. So I think it's clear that the sort of monolithic nature of Silicon Valley is coming to a close.
I think so. And the other thing too is one thing to keep in mind is where's the next generation going to when it comes, and that's why I talked about the short video component, the fact that Twitter and Facebook, that's why Facebook's trying to bring in the Instagram Reels aspect. Facebook now is effectively become just another way to get to Instagram Reels. Instagram has become another way to get to Instagram Reels. Instagram Reels is trying to copy TikTok. So the younger generation, the Gen Z folks, really like the short video component. We will have that as part of what we're doing on Getter, but we still want to make sure that the content is really king. And in particular, this fall as we start monetizing the platform, allowing content creators then to keep more of that money and without living under the sort of Damocles with YouTube.
See, now, sorry to interrupt, but that's and I have to say, as a content creator, that's the thing. Can I monetize? Right now, I didn't mean to this turned into an advert for Getter. I wanted to talk trash about Twitter. But like, is Getter doing a monetization thing?
Yes. So we will start that. We'll have a combination.
Personal interest there.
And so it's a couple of things. One, we'll have the dynamic of pre-roll ads. Essentially, you go into a live stream. Maybe there's a 5 or 6 second commercial, something at the beginning. We'll have in live stream things where you can have either a promoted post within the chat. And obviously you've seen here with Lotus Eaters, the chat that goes on, the way people are super excited, and it's this community. People feel like there's a give and take, that they're part of the Lotus Eaters family.
They are.
Right. And so there's the real back and forth there. So you can do things like promoted posts, you can do things like, say, in-show ads, things of that nature. But then also we're going to introduce a subscription option. So then they'd up to be individual shows. If they want to go and build out a model that has a subscription, people go and do that. So it'll be a number of, plus then we'll also have people, if viewers want to do online tipping and appreciation. So you know what? Lotus Eaters are great. Let's go and give them £5, £10, whatever the case might be, just because I love the show they had today. That'll be the kind of thing where we can monetize as well. And we're going to come in way cheaper than YouTube, Rumble, any of the others. So then you get to keep more of that money as a content creator.
So let's get back to talking trash about Twitter and Elon Musk. So what do you think's happening or going to happen with the current court case? Because I mean, this is a very interesting reversal of roles, isn't it? Elon Musk aggressively coming in and saying, right, I'm buying your platform. There's nothing you can do about it because this is a great offer and you've got an obligation to your shareholders to make sure they get money. And Twitter resisting this initially, and then Elon Musk pulling back and saying, well, actually, and now Twitter is going to court to force him to buy the platform. It's a very interesting state of affairs.
It is,
isn't
and
it?
this is one of the more remarkable things ever. There's never been a company that's was
forced
up for,
someone to buy them.
or someone who's been forced to go and purchase a company like this. Now they've done it for smaller purchases, and in fact, the judge that's overseeing this case is actually known for forcing transactions to go through. But the thing that's different with Twitter is it's so big. I mean, we're talking a $45 billion offer that was made.
Yeah.
And you could say that Twitter really does have, at the moment, the monopoly on that digital town square in that space. Obviously, we're doing our best to cut into it. Other people are challenging it as well. But this is where it's going to get real bumpy because the judge is going to have to make that decision. I don't think it's really going to come down to just the $1 billion breakup fee, which that's a big breakup fee, by the way.
Massive.
That's right. That's Lotus Eaters type money. I mean, that's that's big. But I mean, I would be really hard pressed to think the judge actually forces this to go through. But you look at the language from Musk the last few days, and he's saying things like, well, what Twitter could really become is a better news site. He's throwing, these, like he's almost trying to walk it back a little bit. I don't know if his lawyers, they maybe scared him straight, but this thing's going to get gnarly. I mean, but if Musk, the poison pill, the dagger, is if he gets any aspect of discovery on the bots, that could be real problematic. Because keep in mind, it's not just a matter of, say, the valuation, the forward looking. You have a lot of advertisers.
Well, I was going to get to that actually, because sorry to interrupt, but like you're actually exactly right. If it comes to Twitter essentially committing seppuku at this point, it was like, no, we demand you buy us. And Musk is like, okay, well, let's see the numbers. And if the numbers are not what they claim they are, and Twitter is very opaque about these numbers, then the advertisers, that opens them up to lawsuits from their advertisers under false advertising. And so now Musk could end up not having to buy Twitter because he destroyed it instead.
Yes. And that could ultimately destroy it. And keep in mind, you have USA Today and a number of other outlets in the United States that recently had to settle with people or pay for advertising, particularly online, not living up to what it really was supposed to be. So if the numbers don't match, it could be in trouble. So basically what we're at is a pretty damn high stakes game of chicken. Yeah. It's who's going to back down first. Musk doesn't show any signs. The Twitter folks think that they have a pretty bullish position. I have the feeling this thing's going to get gnarly.
I know. I'm actually really excited to see where it goes. Even just for the high drama of it, just for the high drama, even if, nothing ever comes of it and it all just fizzles out. I want to see what happens because I mean, it's going to be an amazing precedent anyway for the future. Like, because nothing like this has happened.
No. And the one thing too is it's amazing that for all of the talk about antitrust or legislation coming out of Congress or Parliament or things of that nature, it's really going to come down to
A private businessman.
Private businessmen in the free market saying, but then obviously you have the legal system to say whether the contract is going to be enforceable or not. But yeah, ultimately it's going to be the private enterprise. And that's why we launched Getter. Because we looked and said, if we're waiting around for Congress or Parliament or any other body, or if we're waiting around for the courts to decide on some antitrust thing, nothing will ever change. It'll be years. Or the other thing too, politicians usually screw things up. They could make it even worse. They could make it even more prohibitive for challengers to come on board or further erode free speech.
And you must be aware of the online harms bill that's currently being discussed here.
Yes. So we've been very active on this one. We've actually had 2 op-eds in the Express within the last 3 weeks.
Oh, really?
Pushing it. And so we've been very out front on this. I got to give credit to Kemi Badenoch.
She's great.
The only PM candidate who's actually talking about this in a real way. Yep. She was very aggressive. I think it was largely because of her that we got the online safety bill withdrawn, at least temporarily. But here's the thing. It's a little bit
back.
It's going to be back. It's a little bit like I won't use a terrible analogy, but let's just say it's things that never go away.
Yeah.
It's going to come back, and we have to be ready for it, because one of the points that I made in the op-ed, what if you're talking about, what does harm mean? What is legal but harmful, which is the key phrase within the bill? What happens if, say, you happen to be a preacher and you stream your sermons on Getter or on some other platform? What if someone who fits into the other 148 different genders as defined by the BBC and says, wait a minute, this preacher said that there are only 2 genders.
Well,
That's
if you're
harmful
quoting
to
the
me.
Quran and you talk about the people of Lot.
Yes. Then can all of a sudden we start shutting down religion.
Yeah.
The shutting down of religion, I think, is my biggest concern with the online safety bill for where this could go. It's a real slippery slope when you start saying, oh, I'm harmed by this.
Yeah. And it's an irrefutable concern as well. I mean, how can you prove you're not? This is all just emotions in my head.
And the other thing, too, is it's the Tories who are doing this.
Oh, no,
this isn't some national progressive party.
Wow, hang on a second. They are a national progressive party.
Okay. Point made.
But
it's not some,
It's not Labour. Yeah.
It's not Labour. It's not
Corbyn.
It's right. It's not people who self-identify as radical lefties, even though they're behaving it. They're literally the Tories, the conservatives, so-called conservatives, are the ones who are doing it to the people of the UK.
It's incredible. The tidal forces that are pulling them along, because that's how it feels. It does feel there's a significant contingent of the Conservatives. Like, yeah, we don't really want to do this. And yet the tide is still pulling them out at sea. And it's just like, dig your heels in. But anyway, I guess we'll stop it there because I know you're on a timer. So thanks a lot, Jason, for coming in. Obviously, go follow us on Getter. Go sign up to Getter. And I guess we'll see what the future holds, won't we?
We'll see you soon. Thanks, my man.
Yeah, anytime.